Welcome back to On the Couch with Gary Player. Gary, just before the break, we were talking about issues around the youth and drugs, etc. Let's talk about the health and the wellness of the younger generation in South Africa. What do you think the challenges are?
Well, first of all, to have a nation that is productive is very, very important. And if you're obese, it's hard to be productive. So really, I feel one of the biggest problems facing the world today, I know, America going to have 100 million diabetics in 50 years' time unless there's some new medicine invented. But South Africa is prevalent with diabetes. Once you get fat, diabetes, that's a magnet for diabetes. Now you can get it as a virus. My son's a type 1. You can get it as a baby at 2 years of age. But generally speaking, South Africans are on their way to being a big diabetic nation because our nation is getting fat. And that is very important. My advice to schools, academics, so important. But the first subject at school every day should be on health, which covers everything. Eating properly, exercising, understanding how to look after your body. Your body is a holy temple. That is so important for our country. Young people, parents, I appeal to you. If your children are fat, get them off it. Make them exercise. Get a good exercise. And do some kind of sport, even if you don't excel at it.
Talking about the youth, your thoughts on the next generation of golfers, and if we look at, for example, Louis Oosthuizen, your thoughts on that?
We're going to go into, I would say in 30 years' time, we're going to see something very different. We're going to see, because golf is the one sport, I won a tournament last year at 74, enabled me to win in 6 decades. Most sportsmen and women can't win in 1 decade. That's the most they can win. In fact, most of them can't even win in 10 years, a 10-year span. So golf is there, and so what has happened, they see Tiger Woods and Ernie Els have a jet and making all this money, which we never did, but that is fine. I played to win. I didn't worry about the money. So they see this, and they see somebody like myself. Wow, this guy played in 52 Masters tournaments, and he's won a tournament this last year at 74. Wow, I'm going to start playing golf. And so we're going to have these big men who we've never seen them in golf yet. The Michael Jordans, the Shaq O'Neals, all these big people are going to come to golf. They're going to hit the ball 400 yards. You're going to see a massive change, complete different world. But change is the price of survival. So we're in for some very exciting times in the golf world.
I want to talk to you about that 52nd Masters that you played, your final one.
Yeah.
There was actually a picture that you took a bow. To say,
on my knees, I went on my knees.
To say goodbye to, or farewell to the course and to the fans. Quite emotional for you it must have been. What was going through your mind?
Well, on every hole, every tee and every fairway, I got a standing ovation with 70,000 people. Every hole, every tee. So at the end, you know, there's 52 years of your life to win it 3 times, second 3 times, top 10 14 times, most cuts in the tournament. I had to go on my hands and knees for 1 billion people to see.
Yeah.
Because gratitude.
Incredible that.
Why should it happen to me? You've got to be thankful for that. And it's a special experience in my life. Really meant I spent 1 year of my life at Augusta, 52 times, 52 weeks. And it was such an incredible tournament. And wow, I met President Eisenhower and had dinner with him and all these dignitaries. But my life has been so great that I can also stop my car and see an old black man sweeping the street and say, hey, my man, I love you, man. You keeping this city clean. Well done, I'm proud of you. Off I go. So, you know, it's not just the famous.
Of course.
It's an all-round thing that one's got to do.
But out of all the achievements, which one really stands out from the rest?
People are shocked when I say this. You know, there are only 5 of us won the Grand Slam. Yeah. But I'm the only man on the planet that's won the Grand Slam on the senior tour. And I'm the only man on the planet that's won the Grand Slam on the regular tour and the senior tour. And the senior tour I had to win after 50. The fact that I'd taken care of myself, I could do that. A lot of them have tried. Tom Watson, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Lee Trevino, they've all tried. None of them have done it. So that, for me, the senior Grand Slam is my greatest.
Talk about Jack Nicklaus. Is it true that he was your biggest rival and he's your best friend today?
Very much so. And, you know, people who say, you know, you can't be a good loser and be a champion, that's nonsense. Because you're going to lose more than you're going to win, whatever sport you take. You've got to learn to be a gracious loser. The Bible says, enjoy the success of others, because when you have success, you want them to enjoy yours. So And Jack and I were very, very fierce competitors against each other, and yet today we're the best of friends. In fact, he even owns a couple of horses with me in Colesberg and visits me almost every year. He loves South Africa. He's the big, big South African fan. Well, once you come to South Africa, really, there's not another piece of real estate in the world like it.
That's true, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing like South Africa. As long as we have decent leaders, we will go forward. And I know there are a lot of pessimistic people in the country, but there's a lot of positive things. But as long as we have good leaders, and we have such great people, as long as we have great leaders in this country, we will skyrocket. But once you start introducing crazy systems and trying to reinvent the wheel, like Mugabe tried to do, we're gone. We're gone.
I want to talk to you about your nicknames, because there are a few, but the one I want to ask you about is the Black Knight, and of course it's because of the black attire when you play. Yeah. But was there a symbol behind that, or was it symbolic? Was there something symbolic behind that, or was it purely just your trademark?
No, my father said, and he only went to Standard 4 and had to leave school to support his family because his father died. He said to me, make sure you have a brand. I didn't know what a brand was. So I went to America and I saw a show called Have Gun Will Travel. The man was dressed in black, silver holsters here, and anybody who was in trouble, he'd give them their card and he'd go back and he'd help them. I said, that's it. I'm from Black Africa. I've got to wear black.
And that stuck.
And that stuck. And then it was called the Black Knight. And then, of course, my son developed it with a proper flowing hair and everything like that. And it's made me a lot of money having a good brand. It's been voted one of the best brands in sport. And so you must have a brand. Lee Trevino had a sombrero, Arnold Palmer had an umbrella, Jack Nicklaus had a golden bear, Tiger's got the Nike slish.
Yes,
so
you know, the Black Knight.
You've got to market yourself, which I said about horse racing. We've got to find out the best way to market ourselves. Golf, the sport, has found how to market itself, and that's why golf is so prolific.
Well, it was your son Mark that started the Black Knight International, and involved in so many things. I mean, real estate design. You designed over 300 courses in 35 countries. Which one was your favorite?
Oh, it's hard to say. I'd have to say the links down at Fancourt.
Why?
Because it talks to you. One day it's a drive and a 7-iron, the next day it's a drive and a 3-iron, the next day it's a drive and a wedge. And it was a lousy piece of ground, an old airport, was lousy soil, all clay, city dump and all kukui. And to create this there, yes, you can go to Sun City and build this beautiful golf course in the mountains, or Blair Athol, where we are now, with a river going in this beautiful soil. And we did some wonderful golf courses for Sol Kersner in Morocco. And one we just built in Abu Dhabi, which I'm going to tonight. Yeah. That's right up there, right in the desert on the ocean. And, you know, the sheikhs, they don't mess around. They do things really well there. They're building an imitation Guggenheim, the Louvre, right there, costing them billions. I mean, what's happening there is beyond one's comprehension. And the most beautiful mosques, which I really enjoyed going through and looking at.
Gary, being an icon and in the public eye, of course, controversy always creeps up.
Yes.
Creeps in. Yes. You know, over the years, you've been surrounded by controversy. In the 1960s, the book that you wrote and the views on apartheid, you know, the Burma incident, the Nelson Mandela Fund pulling out. But you always seem to stand your ground and spin it around.
Yeah. Well, because if you tell the truth, and when they spoke about the Burma thing, I went to Burma to design a golf course. I never got paid for the whole golf course. I went there one day and built a golf course. We formed caddy programs, which was wonderful, and out. And that was 8 years ago. Our government today are some of the biggest traders of Burma in the world. How hypocritical can you be? Right today, many companies in this country deal with Burma. I never did anything like that on a long-term basis. As far as a book is concerned, in those days, what I was basically saying, there were 3 million people that were interested in golf. Blacks didn't worry about golf in those days. They didn't know what golf was. And so, you know, everything can be taken out of context. It's very easy for somebody who wants to criticize you. And remember, the world's always waiting to condemn everybody.
Particularly if you're a public figure.
And you must be prepared for that. And I am. And so I'll always take something out and twist it around and make it seem like it's bad. It's like Papua Sagolem. That doesn't worry me, the book. That doesn't worry me about Burma. The one thing that worried me in my life a little bit is that people said about me having a cup of coffee in the clubhouse, which I never had coffee in my life until I was 40, sitting in the clubhouse while Papa got his prize in the Natal Open. I wasn't even in the tournament. They talk about the year I was in America, because I got the cuttings today stating the Gary Player was in America. Papua and I were the best of friends. I loved him. I sponsored him to Australia. I know his family, a wonderful family. And some guy, because I was the one who could get the news, if we went for me, Gary Player.
Sensationalism.
Popper got his prize in the rain. Well, our Minister of Sport the other night said at Sun City, he said, Popper, we must avoid these things of Popper getting his prize in the rain. I was standing at the tournament that he did beat me. I was standing, this was another tournament, I was standing in the rain with him, and everybody else was too. Because there's never been a prize giving in a clubhouse. Every prize giving that has ever taken place in golf, in the history of golf, is always outside. So you see how people get it mixed up in the clubhouse while he was out in the rain. There was a red carpet laid out. He stood on the red carpet. He beat me. It was a big thing in those days because I was really almost unbeatable in the country. And we were all thrilled for him. But the press built it up all the wrong way around. He got his prize in the rain. We were all pleased that he'd won. It was a big thing. He was a popular man. And then you get another man who writes a terrible story, a book written to tell. Pop was an alcoholic. Why all these people that want to condemn always? That's what was so great about Madiba. Look what he went through. If anybody should have criticized anybody, it's him. He didn't. He went to have coffee and tea with Mrs. Verwoerd and Mrs. Milan, who persecuted him. And he flew in there and had tea and coffee with him. That's a great man.
That's what makes him the amazing man that he is.
That's what made Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Billy Graham, people that can be persecuted and not live back in the past and have hate in your heart, who can turn the hate. A great man is who can take hate in his heart and turn it into love. That is a man. That is a leader. On
that note, let's talk about Gary Player, the philanthropist. And we talk about the Player Foundation built at Blair Athol schools right here. Education facilities for over 500 students. So tell us a little bit about this foundation.
Well, the foundation was started with my son and myself's idea, and then we had the Nelson Mandela tournament that lasted for a nice while, and it was such a thrill working with Madiba. He's such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man. And then we built the school here at Blair Athol. Robbie Ray, who purchased this property from me, continued and built a new school down the road, which was fantastic. Today we built schools in the squatter camps or the settlement area in Colesberg. We're thinking of doing other schools. We're helping these black kids along the coast who are being neglected down on the garden route. And we're helping with big money. And we're raising big money, and it's wonderful. And we raised in China, we raised $12.5 million for the aged children. In America, we raised $15.1 million in one day. Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and I played together. And we had businessmen come and play, and they raised $15.1 million. That's 105 million rand. We built a school. The kids were out there saying a prayer on the first tee. They were singing the national anthem at 9 holes, and then they sung God Bless America at the end of the day. Because we're giving them a school and homes and a school that'll go on in perpetuity forever. So golf is such a great game, such a great catalyst at helping people. And the one thing that gives me great joy, because everything shall pass. When I die one day, I lie in my bed, I can say, man, there are two things I had. I had love in my heart for people, and I helped thousands, tens and tens of thousands of people to have a better life.
So important to give back, isn't it?
Because I suffered, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like. Where am I going to get help? I was desperate. And there are people that are suffering a lot worse than I am. A lot worse than I am. AIDS, no parents. So one has got to give back. And I'm very proud of South Africans, and I'm very proud of Americans too. America has been a great country at giving back and helping people around the world. They don't appreciate it. Winston Churchill said, why does he hate me? What have I done for him lately? And I'll tell you a great saying. And the older I get, the more I realize this. The greatest saying I've heard in my life: no good deed goes unpunished. For every good deed you do, you get punished. But you must be prepared to get punished. And you've got to be prepared to have criticism.
Well, on that note, I think we'll leave it right there. Mr. Gary Player, thank you so much for joining us on the couch.
My pleasure.